When COVID hit, I instantly got a letter from Gavin Newsom saying, you're not an essential service, you have to shut down.
Loyalty is one of those things in this industry where it can be fleeting, you know?
You don't realize how big of an impact your parents have when you're growing up, because you're always thinking, if my dad was Paul McCartney, or if my dad was so-and-so. When you look back and you go, well, look at the lessons I learned from this person that literally woke up every morning and went to work and then got home on time because his family was his most important thing. Yeah. It was the more important lessons you could ever learn. The biggest problem that realtors have is fear and uncertainty and doubt.
Yeah, FUD.
When you don't know what's going to happen with this NAR lawsuit. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. You've got to also keep your word. Yeah. The moment you don't keep your word, someone's like, hey, you worked on me for 6 months to get my business. You just did something. You're gone.
JMJ Financial, the podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Thibodeau Mortgage Podcast. I have a very good friend with me today, Stuart Thomas. He's the broker owner of RE/MAX Select One. And I would say this, he's the most loyal broker that I've ever met in my 20-year career in mortgage lending. And I've always appreciated that about you.
I greatly appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, loyalty is one of those things in this industry where it can be fleeting, you know? Yeah. People closest to you in your career you think will never leave, sometimes do. And you're kind of the exception to the rule of that. So just wanted to acknowledge you for that before we jump into the conversation.
Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that obviously points to the type of broker you are for the realtors that work for you. And one other thing I'll say about you, there's a lot of like attrition at different spots and kind of like onesie-twosie realtors. You attract some of the best freaking agents on planet Earth, you know, because like I work with some of them, and I'm like, man, these are incredible human. It's more than just the amount of transaction volume they do. Like if I'm name dropping, it's, you know them, the Rodell team, it's Lori McGuire, it's a bunch of others, Susie Mallerby. Yep. Like you look at these people, and it's not just that they do incredible transactions; they're also really good human beings, and that says a lot about you, I think.
Well, I think the one thing is that I don't do mass mailing saying "Welcome to real estate, join my office." Yeah. I go out and I actually meet people that I like, and then I'm really kind of mellow and say, hey, if you're happy where you're at, great. But if you're ever unhappy, give me a call. Yeah. And it seems to just kind of over time, that soft sell, you're the same way. You're not a hard seller. Hey, here's my rates today.
Nope. No. I'm never going to smother you. I'm never going to...
You never have.
No, it's just not my style, but I'm always going to be around, and I'm always going to be reliable.
Correct.
You know?
It's just always good when you get that call that says, hey, if you're ever unhappy, give me a call. And they go, Stuart, yep, I'm unhappy.
Yeah, yeah.
And then here we are 15, 20 years later with the bulk of them.
Right, right.
Lori joined me in 2007. The Rodells and Randy Aguilar and everybody were about 2011 or 12.
Lance Barker,
Yeah, Lance, Susie, I mean, you name it. We've just got such great realtors. It's hard to name one, but at the same time, I just try to hire professionals that are full-time and preferably listing agents because you list to exist.
Yes.
And then in this market, you know, when everything's changing for the buyers, to say, well, that's okay, I'm a listing agent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just so you know, I feel a lot of gratitude because sometimes I don't even feel deserving. I'm like, man, I really am grateful for the loyalty because, again, it's a rare commodity. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, the other thing that is obvious about you is your positive energy. Oh, yeah. And it doesn't feel canned and it doesn't feel forced. It's just like, this is Stuart, right? He's positive. Yep. He knows how to be, I should say, you know how to be edgy, you know how to be funny, whatever. But at the end of the day, when it comes to relationship and business, where did the positive attitude come from?
Two parts. I was born in England, so I have that Benny Hill humor. I mean, I grew up watching Benny Hill and Soccer Made in Germany with my parents.
The context is interesting, right?
My dad is extremely positive, and to put a little damper on things, my dad passed away from cancer about 16, 17 years ago. But the day that he was told, there's nothing you can do, it's over, get your stuff in order. My mom called and she was like, hey, I think your dad's pretty down, give him a call. So I called him thinking, hey, Dad, how you doing? He goes, I'm doing fantastic. He goes, how are you doing?
Oh, my God.
And I literally was like, hey, if I can talk to my dad can be fantastic on the day he's told he's going to die. I can always be better than that. So every morning I wake up and they go, how you doing? I go, phenomenal. That's my word. It's just because it's better than fantastic.
Yeah, I never knew that about you.
No matter what. I mean, start the day positive.
Would you point to that as kind of the main driver?
My whole life I've been around positive people. You play sports, you've got to be positive. You've got to have accountability. Yeah. But my dad, especially at that moment, I was like, hey, if my dad can be positive at this very moment in time, I've always got to be better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I didn't know that. I appreciate you sharing that. You mentioned basketball. We're trying to figure out what to do with our boys. They're in club league. This is a total side note.
Sure.
Yeah. they're in Club League, OGP, and they're enjoying it. They love it. They're thinking about modern day.
Great school.
What do you think?
My son's going there. He went there.
Oh, that's right. He did go there.
My ex-wife's son, with her new husband, he goes there. I went there.
Yeah.
And it's just a great school. What could I say? The only thing tough about modern day is there's no easy way to get there.
Yeah.
It's half an hour.
That's the thing that I'm resisting is like, oh my God, all the way up Harbor in Santa Ana.
But after 4 years of that, just modern day is modern day.
Yeah.
It's if you're going to give your kids anything, give them the absolute best. If you can afford to give them the best.
Yeah.
Don't say, well, it's more convenient for me to not do the best for my kids.
Yeah.
Just always go, hey, whatever, family first, you know.
Yeah. And your son graduated from there, and then he graduated from New York State?
Double major, NYU,
rather.
econ and history, and then he got a full academic scholarship to Chapman. So he is now there.
Oh, really?
And then he got a fellowship where he is now, he got contracts and something else where he now gets paid to teach classes while he's there.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Right on.
Sharp cat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Impressive. You're a good pops.
You know what? I have a good ex-wife.
Yeah. Well, it takes two, co-parenting. Let's chat about, I want to know the story, the origin story, and people who know Stuart will know what I'm talking about, the origin story of the Monday positive email or Facebook post. What do you call it?
Monday's Cup of Motivation.
Yeah, okay.
There was actually...
Are you still doing that?
I've been doing it for 13 years.
Yeah, right.
Originally, there was a lady that I signed up for her coaching class, and she sent something kind of like that out, but it was really canned and was not really applicable to me. And I went, I can do better than that.
Yeah.
So I just took her framework, and then customized it to me, and then I write the entire first paragraph myself, and then I'll find the middle bit, the encouragement, and then I'm always looking for good quotes. And I've got so many people that literally throughout the week are just sending me quotes going, this is a good one. And I'll usually...
So people really enjoy that.
Yeah, I get a lot of feedback from some people, and every week I'll get a thank you, or it's just, you sometimes don't know about it, but then all of a sudden someone will reach out and say, hey, you know what, that really hit home. I had an issue with my family today, and that really sunk in, and you go, well, great. If it helps one person, thanks.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Talk to us a little bit more about, just to plug this, RE/MAX Select One.
21 years we've been a company. It's interesting. I always try to just hire good people that are not just good realtors, but they're good people.
Yeah.
And then you go, wow, you've got some good people. No, there's nothing worse to say.
You saw what I said earlier.
Yeah, that's a
exactly
great
what
realtor.
I said.
Yeah, it's a great realtor, but they'll cut your throat to get a listing.
Yes.
I don't have those people.
Yeah.
I've got the guys and gals that have got 10 times they've had a client, and they just keep doing it. But we started in 2003, and in 2007, I don't brag about this. I don't say it to impress you, but to impress upon you. The level of service and support you'll get when you're in my office. I love that. That's a Brian Buffini.
That's great.
Yeah. I was broker of the year in 2008. We were office of the year in 2007. And I say that because when things happen, you have to adapt quickly.
Yeah.
You can't just sit around and say, now what do I do? You say, okay, based on what I'm facing, how do I take advantage of this, or how do I maximize it? The moment the mortgage meltdown happened, we took classes on short sales, bank owns. We opened a short sale division, and we just killed it.
Wow.
And we were office of the year.
So you pivoted, and you went directly towards what was going to generate business.
And in addition to that, the moment that there was another large RE/MAX office that folded shop and said, we're a private entity, we're not RE/MAX anymore, there was 300 realtors at that RE/MAX that were stranded. So I instantly said, well, I have to do something today. I can't say, well, let me open an office in 30 or 60 days. They're going to be gone.
You were starting to make calls.
So I identified the 3 people that were with that RE/MAX that rented their own space. And the one that absolutely made perfect sense to me, I'd never met her, was Lori McGuire.
Yeah.
She was renting her own spot in Dana Point, and I needed an office the next day.
Yeah.
So I called Lori, had never met her, went down there, pitched with her. Instantly we were done. I called Adam Contos, who's just retired as our CEO at RE/MAX, told him what I was doing. The next day he was in California with my franchise agreement.
Wow.
And we were a franchise by the end of the week, and I brought a bunch of those people over, and they've been with me 17 years.
That's impressive. The CEO flew out to help make this happen for you?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Right
and
on,
then
RE/MAX.
the founder, Dave Liniger, paid for me to pitch all of these realtors about who I was. And Lori came out first, having only known her for about 3 days, and said what a good guy I was, and my mom was appreciative of that.
So Lori joined you what year?
2007.
Yeah. One thing I'll share as a personal anecdote is whenever I'm at your holiday party.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
It never fails. every single year, Lori gets up and speaks to the whole office, both offices, Huntington Beach and South Orange County, and acknowledges you for that. And, somebody like Lori gets recruited constantly, right?
Yep.
And the words out of her mouth every single time, every single year is, I will never leave Stuart, and I will never leave RE/MAX Select One. That says a lot.
Well, all I got to do is just do my best every day. And,
man.
That's it.
Honestly, it's really cool. Yeah. All right. I had a couple other questions
for
you.
Fire away.
Music and laughter. I wrote those two things down because those two words come up for me when I think about you.
Yeah.
When I'm walking into your office every once in a while, I always hear the music playing. So I'm just curious, where did the passion for music and humor come from?
Well, once again, like I said, I'm from England, and my Auntie Jean, my mom's sister, had seen the Beatles in 1963 in Manchester. So my first records I ever got were Beatle albums when I was a kid. And I still have those albums. And on her 75th birthday, I brought the albums out at her party and said, you gave me these 50 years ago or 60 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Well, not 50 because I'm only 56.
Right.
But my dad...
You look really good, by the way.
Thank you. My dad loved music, so he was always... Anytime my dad could play music, it was always the Rolling Stones, Bill Haley and the Comets, Elvis Presley. So I kind of grew up loving music, because it was just in the house. And then I became a collector of music, and now I'm a collector of wine bottles.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I was able to meet my idols Depeche Mode in 1985.
Really?
I was with them, just the four of them, and their manager Daniel Miller. And then I just posted something on the Smiths, which is one of my favorite bands, and Johnny Marr, the guitar player from the Smiths, liked my post.
Wow.
So it's kind
well,
of cool.
You know a lot of people in the industry too, don't you?
It's funny. I didn't intend to, but just through friends, all of a sudden, there was a gentleman that was renting space for me upstairs that ended up, he was the manager of Nickelback and Steven Tyler and Kevin Costner's rock band, Ace Frehley.
So, that's so cool.
I would, hang out with him, and next thing you know, he's like, "Hey, here's some free tickets," or whatever it was. And then my best friend, who's my son's godfather, he basically said, "Hey, if you can help me meet this guy named Kid Rock, I'll hook you up." So I've
heard of him.
I just happened to know a gentleman by the name of Jason Flom, who was the founder of Lava Records, and he was executive vice president of Atlantic Records, and also the CEO of Virgin Records now.
Okay.
So I basically called him. And it doesn't matter how I did it, but I ended up getting Kid Rock with my buddy, and then they became best friends. And then I would meet Rock and Pam Anderson and all that. So it wasn't intentional. I didn't go out of my way to do anything. It's just, people, and you're a good person.
It's law of attraction stuff, though. Yeah. Just the way you show up. You do have a dynamic.
I'm not there to try to say, hey, I want to meet you. I'm like, hey, I'm Stuart.
You're just fun to be around, man.
Yeah.
Well, one of my takeaways with what you shared, though, especially with what you said earlier about your dad and his positivity, even in facing his mortality, is your dad probably had a big impact on you.
Huge. You don't realize how big of an impact your parents have when you're growing up, because you're always thinking, if my dad was Paul McCartney, or if my dad was so and so, but those people aren't around. I mean, those kids are never grounded, and they're never. It's kind of a curse to be the son of a famous person, but when you look back and you go, well, look at the lessons I learned from this person that literally woke up every morning and went to work and then got home on time because his family was his most important thing.
Yeah.
It was the more important lessons you could ever learn.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, for me, when I would be, when my son was a lot younger and I had to go pick him up, and somebody, hey, can you stop for a minute? No, I have to pick up my son. I told my son I would be there at 3. I will be there at 3. Oh, sorry, but I'm late. No, family first, period.
Yeah. So you're talking about having values, and you're talking about boundaries. We'll talk about the market in a minute here and wrap up, but boundaries, right? Just from a coaching standpoint for realtors, I think a lot of people struggle with that. You're talking about that in the context of family, but boundaries, client control, where'd you learn that?
Boundaries? Oh, I don't know. Boundaries and client control.
Staying in integrity. No, I got to pick up my son. That's a cool character.
Well, it's my dad. My dad literally would work, and then my mom would say, hey, your dad's working overtime. There was a reason. It wasn't like your dad's out with the guys having a beer. My dad didn't do that. My dad worked, and my dad would come home. And that was...
Dang, everything points back to your dad, dude.
But you don't realize
that's so beautiful.
But I have an amazing mom. I mean, my mom is the best. Period.
Yeah. So, the father figure and then the mother aspect of the nurturing, both are critically important in their own way.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is, you don't realize that at the time until you become a parent. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the stuff that you're talking about, you go, that's what my dad was talking about, or my mom was doing the same thing. Because people don't realize the importance of a family, or they don't realize, that it's not easy being a parent.
Yeah.
But as long as you can say, these are the rules. This is how we do things. And I'm not going to tell you to do something, but I'm not going to do it myself. You got to practice what you preach. That's
consistency, integrity, and just being a good person, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Good family. I know how much you love your son, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. We're going to wrap it up with talk about the market. It's been 2.5 years with rates kind of elevated. What's kind of cool, and I always like this, especially what I was explaining about you, is your consistency and the loyalty that attracts you. Your office seems to be doing pretty darn well through all of this. And it's been probably, in a certain way, a more challenging market than 2008. To a certain extent, because no inventory, right, or low inventory, high interest rates, high costs, high prices, right? It's totally different dynamic, because like people don't understand. Comparing it to 2008, we had massive inventory, super low prices,
low demand,
super low rates. Yeah, we had a demand problem, right? So different problems. But how would you compare the two?
Well, let's take it one step back. When you asked about our office in 2021, we again were named Office of the Year by RE/MAX.
Right on.
And the reason that was, I think, was important was
right in the midst of COVID.
Well, when COVID hit, I instantly got a letter from Gavin Newsom saying, "You're not an essential service. You have to shut down." And I'm like, housing and giving someone shelter is not essential. So after about a week, they opened it up. But I was on the phone to Randy Rector, who owns HomeSmart Evergreen and Realty One Group West, and Travis Barron, who owns RE/MAX Premier Realty in Irvine. Instantly, when something happens, I basically say, well, I'm not going to just think about this myself. I'm going to look at the brilliant minds that I know in the industry. Yeah. And we're all good friends because I don't talk down on anybody. If you're good enough to be talked about, other people do it for you. And you'll never make yourself look good by trying to make someone look bad.
Right.
So those are kind of the things that you can look at. But we came out with a waiver, and then the next thing, we were not allowed to show houses as far as open houses. There were no open houses. And it was one of those things that we've always said, the internet is going to somehow kind of take over for realtors. And we learned that was not true. The biggest lesson was, we thought, well, if you buy the house sight unseen, once you're in escrow, we'll let you get into the property. Everybody said, no, I need to see the property before I buy it. And that was where the value of the realtors came in. So I basically said, well, I have this Matterport 3D camera, and I've been doing a couple for the realtors here and there, but I'm going to just do them free. And the realtors will then be able to show a 3D virtual tour of the entire house without ever getting someone in. We did so many of those tours that year.
You're spending a lot of man hours doing that.
I drove to San Diego. I mean, you name it.
You know how many miles a year you were driving?
It was on my son's car, and he still ticketed me. It was like 30,000 miles in 1 year just driving from Matterport.
Who paid for your son's car, right?
But that was once again where the market had all of a sudden said, we have an issue. Yeah. And we went, well, how do we resolve this issue today? Not like 3 months from now it'll work itself out. No, we need to take advantage of it right now. Yeah. And we sold like 50% more homes than the year before. We were Office of the Year. So every time something happens, I'm always trying to tell our realtors, the biggest problem that realtors have is fear and uncertainty and doubt. Yeah, FUD. When you don't know what's going to happen with this NAR lawsuit. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know.
I have a story on that.
Well, too. Dave Stefanides, our CEO of OC Realtors, and I were at lunch one day. And I said, Dave, it's real simple. Tell me the rules and I'll learn how to play the game. Yeah. I'm like, we just don't know the rules yet. I go, that's what we're all worried about. But the moment you say, this is the rules, then we look at how we take advantage of those rules and maximize it.
Yeah. My takeaway is whether you're talking about 2008 or this once in every 100-year pandemic that we all had to deal with, is you were pivoting quickly to what you could control.
Well, you have to.
That created value. Mm-hmm. So, interesting theme. Really cool.
Well, I mean, it's just like the people that said, I don't sell short sales. And I'm like, that's half the market back in 2009. I mean, half of your inventory is short sales, but you don't do that. You've just taken half of it away from your clients. Yeah. You have to embrace whatever it is. You have to say, this is what interest rates, the same thing. Yeah. This is where we're at. Let's do our best with it. You know, marry the house, date the mortgage rate.
And can we just acknowledge a lot of offices didn't make it these last couple of years, right? Whether that's mortgage or real estate. So different cities and different areas, not going to name drop, but a lot of offices just don't exist anymore or got acquired.
A lot of that was... Right. Well, it's interesting because when we started the office, I was 35 years old. So I'm 56 now. So when I started it...
Where does the time go? Holy cow.
Well, but the thing about it is the people that I was dealing with back in 2003 were already in their 60s. These were the established brokers. And we were such a small company that when I don't like to look back too far, but... everybody was trying to go big because it was so easy between 03 and 05. They thought, well, let's put an office on every corner, stick a bunch of newbies in it, get a 50% split.
Trying to grow too aggressively.
They thought they were Starbucks, put one on every corner.
Yeah, and everyone's a genius in an abundant marketplace.
When the market changed, they were all stuck with inventory. I mean, I had a guy that came into me and I said, what are you doing? You're a manager at that company. Because we have 35 offices and only 8 making a profit. So they're shutting them all down. But we were so small that we were actually growing as they were trying to consolidate. So
one thing I've always appreciated about you, and I think we're in alignment on this, like you see the office here, it's not bougie, right?
No.
Like what I do spend money on is this stuff,
sure,
right? Yeah. But what I won't spend money on, like there's some big offices that no longer exist in mortgage space and locally here that had leases north of $50,000 a month, right? And I'm just like, that's not who I am. No. First of all, for me, I want to pour my money into customer experience, loan officer experience, creating value for, my referral partners like you.
What's interesting is the people that have these large offices, it's an ego to say, look I spent $1 million on the interior of this office. We have a waterfall, we have a slide like Google. No, I've got office space at our original office because we've had it for 21 years. The realtors don't go into the office anymore. The office is their cell phone.
They don't.
Digital, as far as like digital signatures and Botox are the two biggest things that have made the lives easier for realtors. So I don't do Botox, but I made that joke when I was doing the MC one year at the realtor event. But literally, you don't have to say, I mean, here's a quick story, and I tell this story once in a while. The two biggest... Look back at Mattel. When Mattel came out with Barbie, it used to be you would walk into a toy store and say, hi, Mr. Toyman, what's the toy that I can get my son this year? Oh, you want this one? And they would push it out. Mm-hmm. But Mattel decided, let's advertise Barbie on TV. That instantly made people walk in and say, hi, I'm here to pick up the Barbie. So you were instantly just kind of you weren't being able to tell somebody what was that.
Right.
People used to walk into a real estate office and say, hi, I'm here to look at houses, and you had this book.
Yeah.
And you'd be able to say, well, here's the 5 I want to show you.
Right.
Nowadays, the internet has done what Barbie did.
Interesting.
The internet now has the client saying, I've seen these 5 properties online. I want you to show me those.
Right, sure.
So I can't take and steer is a bad word. We don't use it, but I can't even say, well, I've got 5 properties I want to show you. I've already looked online. I don't want to see those.
Yeah.
These are the ones I want to see. So that's kind of the way the industry has changed. But at the same time, you do need a professional. And people start saying, well, why do I need a buyer's agent? Well, you need somebody to help protect you, because one of the biggest lawsuits right now, people don't realize it, was back when COVID was happening and you were one of 37 offers on a property and you didn't get it. Then the next time your realtor said, well, hey, let's write this thing up. No contingencies, no inspections, just get the property. They did that. And then when there were issues, they sued their realtor and said, you didn't protect me. You told me not to get an inspection. I've got a slab leak.
Yeah.
And that was because you told me I needed to do this. So there's a lot of lawsuits based on that.
Yeah.
So you need somebody who's going to be your advocate, that's going to help you on the buy side.
Yeah, integrity, experience, experienced agents matter. Transaction.
If somebody says, oh, I don't need an agent until something happens, and goes, I could have used an agent.
No, it's huge. Yeah. Like, what are the attributes, just in closing? Like, I know what they are, and I know you have them at RE/MAX. Like, what makes a good agent in today's marketplace?
It's hard to say because, every agent is different, but I don't care what your resume is. I care what your work ethic is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell me I graduated Harvard. Who cares? You've got a license for real estate.
Right.
So do I. I graduated Stanford. Who cares? I got a license for real estate. So it's a question of, you're out there every day. You're not waiting. You've got to be proactive. You've got to go out there and get the business. You've got to think like, what is it? You got to work like a hunter and think like a farmer. You want to be planting the seeds, but at the same time, you got to get today's
thinking big
food.
picture. Long term.
Correct. And you've got to also keep your word. The moment you don't keep your word, someone's like, hey, you worked on me for 6 months to get my business. You just did something. You're gone. That as a lender, unfortunately, the moment somebody calls you and you don't call back, and then
that's right.
That's it.
Dude,
is what it is.
Your reputation and doing what you say you're going to do is everything. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, the way I feel about it is, it's not as sexy. Maybe we don't have the flashy office and some of the bells and whistles, but for me, none of that matters if you don't do what you say you're going to do and you don't do it well.
Well, it's funny because I sleep very well at night, because here's a funny story. Like, I'll get a client that I don't know these buyers, and I know I've got a realtor who's absolutely impeccable with their integrity, and somebody will call and complain about them. And I'll say, well, you know what? The customer is absolutely always right. And they go, really? I go, yeah, but you're not my customer. My realtor is. I said, my realtor's been with me 15 years. I've never had a problem. You've got a problem with my realtor. If I side with you, I just hired a lady who, her broker released her listing because the person complained without her even talking to that realtor. You can't do that. My client is my realtor. I have fired a couple of realtors in my life because once I've figured out what was done, I don't want you in my office. And then that realtor said, well, I thought you had a better, I misjudged your character is what they said. I said, my character's solid. It's my reputation I'm worried about. And that was my answer. And then I said, you're gone. But at the end of the day, I sleep well because I always support my realtors, period.
Right on.
You know, as long as you do a good job and you have integrity, you have a disagreement with my realtor, great. But, you know, I'm supporting my realtor, so what do you want to do? Simple as that.
Stuart Thomas, RE/MAX Select 1. Nice work. Thank you for sharing everything today. Appreciate your time.
Always, brother.
All right, man. All right. That's a wrap.
Thank you.